You know what's awesome? Watching heroes from all different eras and cultures duke it out in a battle royale. You get both impressive fights and an interesting plot. Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero's success demonstrates that this concept works pretty well. So, if you're going to put another entry into the franchise, what's the next logical step? Well, the series I'm going to be reviewing today seems to have decided that the answer to that is to just make everything bigger. Double the number of heroes, double the number of masters, oh, and add a freaking flying fortress for good measure. How well does this actually work? Well, that's what I'll be discussing today. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present Fate Apocrypha. Ever wonder what would have happened if the Nazis got a hold of the Holy Grail? In the Fate Stay Night universe? Oh, and then shortly lost it after stealing it? Well, that's the general premise for Fate Apocrypha. For those not familiar with the Fate universe, the stories generally center around the Holy Grail Wars, in which 7 magi called Masters summon mythological heroes as servants. There are 7 servant classes: Archer, Berserker, Saber, Lancer, Caster, Rider, and Assassin. And one of each will be summoned. Anyways, after summoning servants, the participants proceed to slaughter each other, trying to win the Holy Grail, a wish-granting device that has nothing to do with Christianity. Fate Apocrypha follows a similar pattern to previous stories, but this time there are 2 teams of 7, battling it out to lay claim to the Grail. On one side, we have Team Red, representing the Mages Association, and on the other, Team Black, the Mage Clan Igged Millennia, who's hoping to split off from the Mage Association. Oh, and also were the ones who originally helped the Nazis steal the Holy Grail. Both teams have their share of thoroughly decent people, as well as some complete asshats. And there isn't really a clear good guy, bad guy split. Or at least at the beginning of the story. As things progress, certain members of the team start backstabbing each other, and things go to hell pretty quickly. So, given my earlier plot synopsis, you might think that there are 28 important characters from the 14 Masters and 14 Servants, which would have been just a bit of a pain to keep track of. Luckily, quite a few of the Masters get removed from the picture fairly quickly, and the heroes already have their backstories written in mythology, so it's actually pretty manageable. For the heroes, we have Frankenstein, Vlad III, also known as Dracula, and Jack the Ripper, because apparently the author of Apocrypha is into horror. Chiron, Atlanta, and Achilles, since obviously the Greeks have all the best myths. Mordred as the obligatory Arthurian legend for any Fate story. Spartacus for gladiator fans. Sigurd or Siegfried for some Norse/German representation. Joan of Arc for French representation. Shakespeare, who somehow counts as a hero, I guess. And Device Braun, Astolfo, Karna, and Semiramis, who you've probably never heard of. As for the Masters, I can't really be bothered to talk about most of them, because Fat Pompous Twat, or Crazy Bitch, is about as much characterization as most of them get. There are a couple worth mentioning though. First and foremost, we have Shiro Kotomine, a name that will be instantly recognizable to Fate Stay Night fans, as a combination of the names of the primary hero and antagonist from that series. And he has characteristics of both. He has all of Shiro Emiya's drive to save everyone, but also has Kiri Kotomine's intelligence and manipulative nature, making him quite the interesting character. Next up, we have Kairi Sisko, a badass necromancer who really should have been the protagonist of this series. He's experienced, competent, and I found quite likable. His motivation for winning the Grail is also straightforward and worthwhile. He simply wants to undo the death of his stepdaughter, which to me is much more relatable than the goal of many of the other mages. The standard goal for a mage is to reach the root, a metaphysical location that acts as the force. It exists at the top of all universes in every dimension, as well as the source of all events and phenomena in the universe. Yeah, I'll be rooting for the guy who wants to save his daughter. Anyways, I suppose I should mention the actual protagonist as well. Sieg is a homunculus created by the Black faction, who somehow gained free will. His general goal is to free all the other homunculi, and through some happenstance, he ends up becoming a major player in the Holy Grail War. He has all the personality of a wet towel, and ridiculous plot armor, making him about as standard a protagonist as they come. Fate Apocrypha has mastered an art that eluded the original Fate Stay Night: concise writing. The whole story is only 5 volumes long, but a hell of a lot happens in those 5 volumes. Flashbacks are short and to the point, and exposition is kept to a minimum after the beginning of the story, so there's a lot more space to fit in plot. I found myself consistently on the edge of my seat, wondering what was going to happen next, both because of the mystery elements of the story and the action, and at no point does the story ever slow down or drag, so there was never really a wait to find out. I found the style as a whole made the story much more engaging. Also, full props should be given to the author for writing good action scenes. Reading through a scene, you can really feel it come alive and play out in your head blow for blow. Generally, I feel like this is something that's actually much better achieved through a visual medium, but here, I felt like I could experience the whole thing perfectly, just through the words, and that's an impressive achievement. Fate Apocrypha doesn't create any characters you can really love or hate, and that is by far its biggest issue. Since the whole story is a death tournament, the most dramatic parts are going to be watching characters struggle to survive and kill each other. In order for the readers to be fully invested, they should have both some characters they couldn't bear to see die, and some others they want to see burn in hellfire. The original Fate Stay Night had both Rin and Saber, who I was hugely fond of, and Shinji, who ranks as one of my most hated characters of all time. But Apocrypha doesn't really have anyone who compares. The romance between Sieg and Joan of Arc could have helped things, but it was woefully underdeveloped. I also have some issues with the originality of the story. Other than the whole team thing, the story feels quite similar to Fate Zero, and I couldn't help but feeling like I'd seen a lot of this all before. The Holy Grail War is a very cool concept, but repeated enough and it starts to get a bit warm. Fate Apocrypha really needed to add a bit more to it to make it feel new. Reading Fate Apocrypha is like eating popcorn. It's easy to consume and it's a satisfying enough experience, but it doesn't really fill you up. It would need a bit more depth before I could say it's a truly great series. That being said, I absolutely recommend it to fans of Type Moon, and I am personally looking forward to seeing the anime adaptation that's coming out. If you've already read this and are looking for something similar, then maybe check out Future Diary, another highly lethal tournament battle series, or Raku no Yusha, if you want the same mix of fantasy battles and mysteries. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this review. Thank you for listening. Cheers!